Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, we are continuing our series where we take a Pokemon and we look at the entire history of that Pokemon in the trading card game. And today, we are looking at Empoleon, partly because I love Empoleon, partly because Pokemon Tournament DX is coming out soon and I am stoked to be able to play as Empoleon. And thirdly, because there is an argument that Empoleon is one of the best Pokemon we have ever had when you look at all of Empoleon's cards together. And it started with a bang right out the gate. Empoleon was introduced in the Diamond and Pearl base set in May 2007. And by August 2007, it was in the final of the World Championships as Akira Miyazaki piloted it to a second place finish in the seniors division. It really was quite funky, and if you look at this card now, it looks very straightforward. Stage 2 Pokemon, 2 energy, snipe for 40, 3 energy, 70 damage, flip a coin, if heads 20 to one of your opponent's bench. It looks so standard. How did it ever win the World Championships? Why was it so good? Well, it was partly context. Back then, abilities were a really big thing, but so was ability lock. You had cards like Cessation Crystal, a Pokemon tool that you could attach to your active to turn off Poké Powers. So the fact that Empoleon could just sit there doing decent damage without needing Poké Powers made it really good. Not to mention the fact you had cards like Holland's Electrode, which you could just attach as 2 energy of your choice, although only if you already had an energy card attached to that Pokemon. We had double rainbow energy, which is exactly what it sounds like, except it could only be attached to an evolved Pokemon, and you then did 10 less damage. And we had scramble energy, which provided free energy only to an evolved non-EX, and only if you were behind in prizes. So when you've got those energy cards allowing you to essentially treat Empoleon as a single energy attacker, while turning off Poké Powers and slowing down everyone else's decks, yeah, it was really quite good. Not to mention the 130 HP. Now, Diamond and Pearl also gave us Empoleon Level X, which is a beautiful looking card, but honestly, it never saw a huge amount of play. It was in neither this World Championship deck, nor the even more impressive deck we're just about to talk about. In theory, the Poké Power Supreme Command looks good because you get to slow down your opponent. In theory, sniping for 80 is great with cards like Uxie and Kaleido running around in format shortly after it came out, but not being able to attack next turn, it was just a little bit clunky. I played this in some decks, but it wasn't in the really top level decks. And then it continued really strong because we move into Majestic Dawn and we get another Empoleon that ended up in the World Championship Finals. Except this time Dylan Lefevre actually won, and I'm sorry for the pronunciation there, the Seniors Division in 2008 with this. And it was actually weirdly similar to the previous deck. Again, you've got cards like Cessation Crystal to turn off abilities. Again, we're relying on stuff like Holland's Cast Form, allowing you to treat it as a double energy, but only if there's an energy attached to it and you bring it back to your hand. And again, we're sitting here and we're using Scramble energy and we're using double rainbow energy. So it's a very similar kind of set up fast, have a high HP, turn off abilities kind of Pokemon. And it worked 2 years in a row with different Empoleons. 2 energy, 30 damage to 2 bench, 3 energy, 50 damage, plus 10 more for each of your benched Pokemon. Shouldn't take a genius to figure out that means a full bench means you're doing 100 damage, and it shouldn't take a genius to figure out that in a format where 130 HP Pokemon can make the final of Worlds 2 years in a row, and yes, I know it's seniors, but that's still impressive, that 100 damage is really quite good. And if you flip tails, you do 10 to each of your bench, but you know, you can't have it all. Empoleon started off with 2 amazing cards. both of which made the final of Worlds in Seniors. Now, unfortunately, it did go a little bit downhill after that. Stormfront came out in November 2008 and brought us, to date, the only metal Empoleon. It wasn't particularly great. The thing is, although it looks kind of fun, stopping your opponent attaching energy for a turn, and so on and so forth, you know what? Stormfront was a set that gave us Gyarados. The set that gave us Machamp. The set that gave us Gengar. And I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but Empoleon just could not compete against those Pokemon. Although, as a side note, it's kind of a fun historical Pokemon, being a metal Pokemon that attacked for water energy. Moving forward in February 2009, we got the Platinum Empoleon, which was just very meh. 2 energy, 40 damage, discard a card from your opponent's hand. 3 energy, 70 damage to one on the bench, and you can't use it the following turn. Nothing particularly special. Still in 2009, but going forward to August, we got Empoleon FB, one of the SP Pokemon. And you had cards like Energy Gain, like Poker Turn, that really could have helped Empoleon. But the problem is, it's just a little bit weak. When you've got cards running around like Blaziken FB level X, and shortly thereafter Luxray GL level X, Garchomp C level X, it's just a little bit rubbish. It was never one of the good SP Pokemon, and that makes me sad. I've told you that Empoleon's my boy, but unfortunately it was just never quite good enough. But in May 2012, we got the Dark Explorers Empoleon. And this was a great Empoleon. The ability allowing you to discard a card from your hand and drawing 2 cards was amazing. Get rid of rubbish, draw cards. It was such a consistent deck because of this ability. And of course you get multiple Empoleon. You can use this ability multiple times per turn. Such a good ability, in fact, that it is being reprinted on the upcoming Zoroark GX that we're getting in Shining Legends. But it had the attack as well, attack command. 10 damage for each Pokemon in play. Everyone's got a full bench, you're doing 120 for a single energy. And then, of course, Max Potion comes in, and you're quite hard to knock out. It was a great card that saw a lot of play. It didn't see kind of high-level world success, but in terms of smaller tournaments and what would now be league challenges and league cups, ladies and gentlemen, it really did have a lot of very good finishes. Fun fact, it had the same attack as Jumpluff, which did win the Junior World Championships in 2010. Fun little fact there. Really good attack. Not quite so good when it came out in 2013, but still a very, very good card with a great ability and a great attack. And it did receive a reprint as a beautiful secret rare in May 2013 in Plasma Freeze. Now, our first ever promo Empoleon came around in November 2012 in the 3-pack blisters that came around with Boundaries Crossed. Just wasn't terribly good. There's not much to say about it. Fury attack, flip 3 coins, 30 times the number of heads for 1 water isn't terrible, but it's not particularly good. 70 for free is underwhelming, and you can discard some energy, but it's a beautiful card and I love it, because I love me some Empoleon. And as a side note here, this is a good time to point out, of all of the first partner Pokemon, from all of the generations, Empoleon is my very favourite. Don't know why it took 9 minutes to tell you that, but now I have. Our next Empoleon came out in November 2013, exactly 1 year later in Legendary Treasures. The most exciting thing about this Empoleon, it was a non-reprint, a brand new card in an almost entirely reprinted set. There's not really much else to say about it, to be perfectly honest. But, you know, it is cool that it was a brand new card in a largely reprint set. Our last real Empoleon came out in Breakthrough in November 2013, and it looked incredibly promising at the time. The attack's a bit rubbish, but the ability allows all of your basic Pokemon to do an extra 20 damage. That sounds pretty good. People really thought this was going to see play with Archie's Ace in the Hole, which allowed you to grab Empoleon and pop it on the bench without having to evolve it up from a Piplup, with Seismitoad, so that you could essentially sit there blocking trainer cards, item cards with Seismitoad, while doing a whole bunch more damage. People played it, but even at smaller tournaments, it just didn't see much success at all. Upsetting, but not really much we can do about it. Now, I said that was the last real Empoleon we got, because in January 2016, in a special Break Evolution box, we got Empoleon Break. Love the artwork, love the HP, and here's the thing, the attack on Empoleon Break is actually pretty good. 30 damage times the number of Pokemon your opponent has in play. Your opponent's got a full bench. You're doing 180. So why did this Empoleon never see any play? And I've never seen this at a tournament. The reason is very simple. Empoleon's a stage 2. That makes Empoleon Break effectively a stage 3. Now, the issue with this is that you've got to evolve all the way up to a stage 3. It's very slow, and we don't have a really good Empoleon at the moment. This Empoleon is still legal, but the only Empoleon which is available for us at the moment, the only Empoleon that's legal for tournament play is the one from Breakthrough, which has a terrible attack and a really good ability that helps basic Pokemon that won't help when you're playing an Empoleon deck. So that's why it's never seen any play. Overall, Empoleon had a cracking start with 2 great Empoleon cards that don't look amazing, but were so good in that particular meta for their decent damage, good HP, and lack of abilities, or Poké Powers as they were back then. We had a little bit of a drought. We had a really good Empoleon in Dark Explorers, and it's been pretty slim picking since then. But there are really not many Pokemon in the history of the trading card game that have had 2 different cards make it into the World Championship Finals in any age division. There are some, we'll talk about them in future videos, but there aren't very many, so we've got to consider Empoleon at least on the verge of being one of the best ever. But if you disagree, ladies and gentlemen, well, that's what the comment section is there for. Maybe also give me some suggestions about other Pokemon you'd like to see featured in this video. Although pre-Diamond and Pearl my knowledge is slightly spottier, that doesn't mean I won't be making these videos. It just means I'm going to have to liaise with some of my confidants to make sure that I'm feeding you the very best possible information. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy and Twitch at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio for some live action. We're live streaming at 7 PM UK time tomorrow, playing some PTCGO. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus pods and so on, go and check out patreon.com/PTCGRadio. I'll be your friend. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.